in the sun. He prayed to accept Jesus Christ as his Savior. That's the most important thing that you can do. Be obedient to what God calls you to do. I believe God can use anybody.
Thank you for joining Mercy Today. How do mercy and compassion break down barriers and change everything? How do they bring hope? Be inspired as our guests share about the life-changing, soul-impacting work through the ministry of Mercy, Inc. and its partners. Here's your host, Dr. Dan Pritchett.
I don't know what you think about when you think of the word missionary, but sometimes I know we think about the guy with a Bible hacking his way through a remote jungle somewhere, or maybe gathering a group of African kids in a circle telling them about Jesus. Actually, that could be part of it, but there's a whole lot more to it than that. Building a medical clinic to help sick people, digging clean water wells so villagers don't get sick and die from the dirty water they're getting, teaching people how to read and write in their own language, or helping farmers have productive crops by providing the right kind of training and techniques, fertilizers that will help feed their families and even take their crops to market to create an income to sustain their lives. That's all part of the life of missionaries, and that's what Mercy is all about, this and a whole lot more. Someone has to do the work. Someone has to build and maintain that hospital and the other structures. And one of those guys is in the studio with me right now. Really happy to welcome him. Going to introduce him in just a moment. We're going to meet him and hear even more about how compassion changes everything. Today's episode is called Everybody Has a Role. I want to welcome you to the discussion here, invite you to pull up a chair and join us at the table. In studio today is Bud Lenker. Bud is one of those builder guys who leads teams to get the job done, makes sure things get built and maintained and all that goes with that. So Bud has invested a lot of time and talent in Haiti, and we're going to hear about that today. So again, today's episode is called Everybody Has a Role. Bud, it's good to meet you today for the first time, and thank you so much for coming into the studio for this show, and welcome to Mercy Today.
Good to be here, Dan.
Yeah, so we're going to get right into it. We're going to go to Haiti. Several people that we have on our show have been to Haiti and planning, hoping, praying to be able to go again. Let's just start with this. Mercy, Inc. is bringing humanitarian service to 20-some countries, and God seems to have given you a special heart for that little island out there in the Caribbean called Haiti. So I'd like for you to tell our listeners how that calling, not what the work that you're doing yet, we'll get to that, but how did that calling occur in your life?
Well, growing up in a parsonage, in a pastor's home, I always read missionary stories. I was always excited about those. And when me and my wife got married, we talked about doing mission work, but way down the road when we were retired.
Right.
And in 2004, we sponsored a starfish kid through the child sponsorship program. And when one of the men in the church asked me to go on a construction team, the question came up, could I see my starfish kid and student? And so my wife would write the missionary that was in charge of the program and say, what can Bud bring to our starfish kid?
Yeah.
And she would just write back every time, you need to come. And this went on for a couple of months. And finally, as my wife says, she submitted to my authority and agreed to go.
Yeah, okay. A little tongue-in-cheek there, right?
Yes. In 2005, we went to build the new seminary, start the construction of the new seminary building. And the last day of that trip, we got to go meet our starfish kid.
Oh, wow.
And it was in a rural community and pretty emotional.
Sure.
And so we get to meet him, and the missionary says, you need to be praying for your sponsors because they are praying for you. And he responded with, I don't know how to pray. I've never been to church. And thinking there was something missing in the translation, the missionary went and got the pastor, and through a conversation and telling about the story of Jesus, sitting on my knee in the sun, he prayed to accept Jesus Christ as his Savior.
What a thrill for you.
And that totally changed our lives.
Yes.
Things that were important before were not.
Yeah.
My wife and I fell in love with Haiti and the Haitian people and missions all around.
I'm guessing that experience with that boy on your knee confirmed God's call from some years prior.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
What was the boy's name? Do you remember?
Jovenel.
Okay. Of course you remember, right? Right. Wow, that's exciting. So, and it's all about everybody has a role is the name for the episode for today. And you have a role. And, some people as missionaries or on teams, they're preachers or teachers or they evangelists or church planters or disciple makers. So, but you go as a very, very important part of that team. So what skills and experiences God given you to be a part of that team there in Haiti?
All of my adult life, I've worked construction.
Okay, yeah.
And so I've picked up a lot of individual skills, electrical, plumbing, just general construction. And it's been interesting to see how God uses those. I've always thought that it was preachers that were missionaries.
Right. That's the whole point. There's a role for everybody, right? So if I walk into a building that needs some repair, I have no idea what to do, like a lot of preachers and pastors, right? But you walk into a building, you say, I'm going to get right to that. I got the tools, I got the know-how, I know what needs to be done, and I'm going to do it.
It's amazing how God equips us all uniquely.
Yeah. Is it possible in the span of time that even as you were growing up and getting an interest in construction and all that stuff, that God was right then planting in you the very tools, the very things that you would need to take that assignment to do that valuable work in Haiti?
Absolutely,
there
without
you go.
a doubt.
Yeah. I want our listeners to know, too, that whatever work you're doing now or whatever activities or interests or hobbies or anything, God can use that, right? Because the title is Everybody Has a Role, whether it's somebody on Wall Street or whether it's somebody on the farm or somebody in the medical field, whatever it is, there's a role for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So there you are, working away at your project, whether you're hauling lumber or throwing a hammer or whatever it is you're doing. And you lead teams too, so it's not just your hands-on building. What's going through your heart and your mind as you're busy on that project?
Well, interestingly enough, it used to kind of bother me that what I was doing wasn't effective. But as time went on, I came to realize that if I'm not doing these things, those pastors, evangelists can't do their job.
Perfect. Yeah. That speaks to all of us. And God selects us and calls us and equips us and gifts us, and then He sends us. But He doesn't send everybody to Haiti. He doesn't even necessarily send everybody away from their own community. But He does have a plan and a purpose for each of us. Would you affirm that?
He plants us all in a mission field.
Yeah. I see the big smile here in the studio. That's fantastic. So I don't want to leave that too soon. If you have something else that resonates when you're working on the project, you feel God's presence, you feel like I am in the right place, doing the right thing with the right people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think anytime you're working, whatever the project is, and you're in the center of God's will, there's just a peace and a contentment about that.
Yeah. Yeah, perfect. So as we look at the skills that you have and the skills that others have, maybe not the preachers and the pastors, but other kinds of things, the trades or whatever, what other kinds of things are needed in the Mercy projects around the world? What kinds of people or what kind of occupations that maybe somebody's saying, well, I'm going to work and I come home and that's it, but maybe...
I believe God can use anybody,
Yeah.
irregardless of what the occupation is.
Yeah.
I took a team of electricians to Haiti one time, and none of them had ever been on a missions trip before. And it was exciting to see how God used them and how it impacted each one of them.
Wow. So if anybody's thinking as they're listening to you talk, well, I've got my job and stuff, but, how could God use me? And you would say what?
Go. That's a pretty simple answer.
Go. I think on our website, we're going to put up a sign-up sheet. If you want to go to Haiti or anywhere for that matter, get in touch.
Yes.
Let us know. We'll talk about air travel and talk about accommodations and whatever the person needs to know, right?
Absolutely.
And the first part is to have a willingness and a desire to be a part of what God's doing.
Obedient to what God calls you to do.
Absolutely. We're going to hear more from Bud right after the break, so don't go away.
I'm Brad Swinford with Salem Concrete Paving. It's a privilege to partner with Mercy, Inc., who provides hope to people around the world by meeting critical needs and introducing people to Jesus. I know that through Mercy, Inc., I'm investing in God's kingdom as they spread the love and gospel of Christ around the world. So please join me in supporting Mercy, Inc. and Mercy Today Radio by praying or going to their website, at MercyToday.Global. Thank you.
Here is Mercy Inc. Executive Director Doug Hoffman with another Mercy Minute.
Today I want to take you to Haiti. I want to talk to you about Bethesda Medical Clinic. Dr. Rodney there and his staff of 70 people, they've been around for over 60 years. And as they are there, they are making a difference in people's lives, not only physically by treating them for their medical issues, they're also bringing spiritual awareness to them. They're praying with every patient, not only at the time when they come in, but also as they're being healed. And that prayer difference is changing lives for eternity. They're leaving healed, or if they're taking medication and whatnot, they're going through that process. But if they can heal their soul for eternity, that is what Bethesda Medical Clinic is all about.
Now's the time to become a part of something greater in our community. You and your organization can partner with Mercy Today and change the lives of thousands around the world. Our team of business professionals can also come alongside you and help you grow your organization to maximize your impact. Our goal is to help you increase your quadruple bottom line: people, planet, profit, and purpose. Consider being a sponsor of Mercy Today. Visit our website at MercyToday.Global.
This is Doug Hoffman, Executive Director for Mercy Inc. Just thanking you for listening to MercyToday.Global.
Welcome back. You are with Mercy Today radio show. You know, we're telling people about how compassion changes everything. I'm in studio today with Bud Lenker. We're going to wrap up our conversation, but Bud has a lot of hats with Mercy Inc., and one of my favorites is about the Starfish Kids. It's a child sponsorship program, and you can learn more about that another time, but I'm just kind of introducing Bud here. So the topic for today is everybody has a role. And so, Bud, when we left for the break, we were talking about that whole issue of hearing and responding to God's call. Can you refresh that for us and tell us, what does that mean to you?
When God puts a call upon your life and the Holy Spirit speaks to you, when you're obedient, when you're in the center of God's will, that's the only place in this world that you'll find contentment.
Yeah. And I think what we want to say is that's kind of a neighbor word of the fruit of the Spirit. And so if a person is walking with the Lord and seeking to be obedient and asking God, just show me what you want me to do, part of the result of that is going to be love and joy and peace and patience. There's more to that list, but it's a pretty good start, isn't it? And
absolutely.
So day to day, whether you're in Haiti or at home, you're sensing that fruit of the Spirit, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you would say what to a person that's in Seattle or Tallahassee or New York? What would you say to them if they think they might be being called to something?
Be obedient and go. And that go may be where you work today. Be obedient and share what Jesus has done in your life.
Yeah.
We all have a story of how God works in our lives.
Yeah. I'm just thinking that reminds me of the Great Commission where Jesus said, go. That was the word.
It's a pretty simple instruction.
It pretty much is, yeah. And so you got that call. We've heard about that, and you're still going and still doing. That's fantastic. So you had a run-in with the ground, and tell us about the tree story.
In 2012, when we lived in Haiti, my wife and I served there. My job was maintenance and leading construction teams, and so I didn't know day to day what my job was going to be. On this particular day, one of our trees was losing limbs and poking holes through the roof of the office. And so I'm up there with a chainsaw and a
just
machete.
Doing your job, right?
Just doing my job.
Yeah, it's another day.
And cut a limb and slipped and fell. And so I fell 30 feet, face first. And while I'm falling, I remember thinking, this is going to hurt.
Wow.
So
that's like 2 stories up.
Yes.
Right?
So for about 2 seconds, I was a prophet.
Yeah.
Because it did. It hurt.
It did come about. That was fulfilled, yeah.
So the Haitians that were working with me quickly rolled me over, and my glasses had cut a gash on the bridge of my nose. And so my eye sockets were quickly filling up with blood, and my wife came from the office, and she asked one of the Haitian men for his shirt. She picked out the cleanest shirt that she saw to wipe the blood away, and she's talking to me. I'm kind of groggy at that time, and she says, well, what hurts the worst? And I said, well, my elbow. And we looked down, and the machete I'd been using had made contact with my elbow.
Made contact. Can you describe that?
Yeah, that's a nice way to put cut my
whacked
elbow.
off a hunk, or what happened?
Pretty good gouge in my elbow.
Yeah.
So there was a EMT trained missionary that was there that quickly did some triage, and they didn't want to move me because of how far I'd fallen. And so they sent Boss Faya, one of our Haitian friends, to run to the wood shop and get a door to use as a backboard. So they carefully moved me onto this door and went to pick it up, and it started breaking in half. Well, that wasn't going to work. So he runs back and gets a metal door, which was in the wood shop, and they used that for a backboard. And luckily, my weight didn't break that one. But they took me down to Bethesda Medical Clinic on the compound there and did x-rays and realized that I had fractured my skull and had cuts in 3 or 4 places that needed sewing up. And I'd been there many, many times working on various things, repairing x-ray machines, electrical, plumbing, different things over the years. And I'd watched them sew people up, and so I knew they didn't have all the medicines that we have here. And one of those they didn't have was Novocaine. So I was preparing myself for what was coming when the doctor was going to sew me up.
Yeah, bite on this stick.
Yes, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And my wife was thinking the same thing, so she's praying, and the Haitian doctor comes in and reaches in his smock and takes out a vial of Novocaine and says, Americans are wimps. And I said, Doctor, you can call me anything you want. Just shoot it up.
Yeah. So now when God calls you to Haiti or to somewhere else, you're kicking and screaming, right?
Absolutely not.
Yes, that's
Yes.
It's being facetious, because that's what when we get tough as we have those hardships with the pain and the challenge and the sacrifice and everything. And it is a matter of suffering at times. And for that, it was physical for you. And you go back in a minute, wouldn't you, to Haiti right now?
Absolutely, in a minute.
Perfect. So, but one of the things we didn't get a chance to hear about is your involvement in the whole project of the Bethesda, the medical clinic. Is that the full name of it?
Bethesda Medical and Dental Clinic.
Okay, right. And so the team is there, and they're helping people, and sick people are coming in, and people with tooth problems or physical problems. And what you have said is that there's more to it than just helping to fix the body.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The day starts early. Patients start showing up 4:35 in the morning.
Really?
Get a number. 8 o'clock, they have a devotional worship time, and the gospel is clearly shared. Every patient is prayed over.
Wow.
So you've taken the medical need, but you're targeting the soul.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the most important part.
Yeah.
And Dr. Rodney Baptiste, the leader of the Bethesda Clinic, what an amazing godly man. Never misses an opportunity to share Jesus.
Yeah. So the talk around here is that in our show planning ahead of time, we'd like to have Dr. Rodney on, whether we send somebody to Haiti and hook up, or maybe he can get on. Does he have a way to
Absolutely.
Zoom
Over the
or
internet.
something? Or great. So our people can look forward to that. I'm anxious to talk to him too.
An amazing man of God.
Yeah. Great. So I know I keep quoting Doug Hoffman, the executive director of Mercy, when I say that compassion really is a doorway to the soul. And Doug has said, if a tummy is empty, they're not going to hear about your Jesus.
That's right.
They can't care. They have they have to care about their immediate need for themselves, and they're in pain, or their kids, or their lack of food, or whatever else. Yeah.
Well, time and time again, Jesus healed
Yeah.
before he taught.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because those people had...
It's a pretty good example to follow.
I was going to say, Israel back then was probably kind of like, in a lot of ways, Haiti now.
Yeah.
I always want to put together Haitians and Haiti in my words. So another thing about, you're a team leader, and when you said on the show that you take teams, you're a team leader. So I've heard that some things happen on the construction site sometimes. Tell us about that.
Well, it's amazing how many of the old hymns have been translated into French and to Creole.
Yeah.
And many, many times on the job site, I will start singing an old hymn, and pretty soon you have Haitians over on one side of the job site singing the same song in Creole.
Wow.
And what's really interesting, sometimes you'll get multiple parts singing in multiple languages.
Oh, wow.
And it gives you a little glimpse of heaven.
Harmonizing?
Yes.
And the same tune.
Same tune.
But different languages.
Words.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Kind of makes me wonder what heaven's going to be like.
Oh, my gosh. A little foretaste there.
Absolutely.
So now these people that you take, and there are Haitians that are working with you.
Yes.
There's an impact. There's a spiritual impact with those teams and the people that are working there.
Oh, both ways.
Yeah,
both the Haitians and the Americans that we take. Yes.
Yeah.
So many times that interacting, that relational piece becomes the most memorable part of the trip when people come home.
It's all about the relationships, which has opened the door by the humanitarian, compassionate service. Beautiful model.
Yeah.
So I heard that it doesn't take much for you to get started telling somebody about Jesus. Is that true?
I used to be much shyer about it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't that long ago somebody was convinced me or told me that we all have a story. And what has God done in your life? So if you're going to share Jesus, what has God done in your life?
Right.
Because he's working in all of our lives.
Exactly. Yeah, I try to bring it out with the people that I work with at my church, and I say, I want to hear about what God has done in your life, because in our neighborhood, in our community, people don't care about our church. They don't care about our Bible. They don't care about what they call our religion.
That's right.
But if you can tell them how God's faithfulness has shown up and meant something in your life recently, that's irrefutable.
Absolutely.
And you can tell that with authority. And they say, well, I don't believe in God. It's okay. Here's it happened to me. This is my experience of God's faithfulness. That's powerful.
I remember my dad teaching me to drive in a 63 Datsun pickup with a 3 on the tree.
Yeah.
And him telling me over and over again, check your mirrors, check your mirrors, check your mirrors. And I've taken that to a spiritual point in my life. Check your mirrors.
Wow.
What has God done in your life? Has he been was he faithful back there? He's the same God today as he was then.
That's beautiful. Check your mirrors. Our listeners can grab that and use it. Right. What's God doing? And if he has been faithful in the past, he's going to be faithful even when he calls you out of your comfort zone.
Absolutely.
Even if he invites you to go someplace else, either geographically or out of your comfort zone.
Yep.
Yeah, he's working. He's at work, right? Until the close of the age, and who knows when that will be. So, Bud, I'm getting down to the last couple of questions. I'd like to ask you this. How would you wrap it all up? So our theme was everybody has a role. What would you say about that?
No matter where God has you today can be your mission field. He doesn't call everybody to go to Haiti or Africa or India, wherever, but he puts us all in a mission field.
Yeah.
And I think the number one thing is we have to be obedient to where he calls us and what he calls us to do.
Yeah.
To openly share the gospel to those that we come in contact with.
That's what it's all about. That's what Mercy Inc. is all about around the world, every project. Okay, so in just the last few seconds here, speak to the listener and tell them what you want to say to them directly.
Be obedient to what God calls you to do. That's number one. To me, that's the most important thing that you can do. Be obedient to what God calls you to do.
I think I hear a pattern.
Be obedient to what God calls you to do.
No matter what.
Be
right?
obedient to what God calls you to do.
Yeah, even if it costs you a little pain.
Yes.
So, folks, we're going to wrap this up, but I want you to know that you can go to our website and hear this show again and all of them. Go to MercyToday.Global. And we've been in studio with Bud Lenker with Mercy Inc. full-time now for a few short weeks, a month or so, right? Yeah. Everybody has a role. So if you would like to partner with us in this local area, we'd love to hear from you. Businesses and organizations, you can learn how that works. You can support the work of Mercy worldwide, and you can grow your business by reaching to this community. So, Bud, thank you so much for coming in today. God bless you. Will you come back for some more?
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
How do you multiply your time, talent, and treasures? By investing in Mercy Today. Whether it's going on a mission outreach halfway around the world or sharing your insights and experiences with others in our local community, our team of business professionals can help you multiply what God has given you. We can help you grow your organization so that you and your fellow work associates can utilize your talents for even greater causes as you multiply your resources to do even more. Join us and become a sponsor of Mercy Today. Visit our website at MercyToday.Global. Have you been looking for new ways to grow your organization and have a lasting, eternal impact? Mercy Today has an amazing team of business professionals that have managed small businesses to large corporations, and we want to share that know-how and experience with you. We're also committed our lives to sharing the gospel with compassion and serving the practical needs of communities around the world. Partner with us and become a sponsor of Mercy Today. Visit our website at MercyToday.Global.
I'm really glad to have had Bud Lenker in studio today. The topic was everybody has a role. So, listener, if you have questions about anything, even the Bible stuff or the obedience or hearing God's call or anything about mercy or about our radio show, go to our website, MercyToday.Global. Lots of interactivity there, lots of information, and connect with us. Fill out a form, and we'd be happy to communicate with you. And we'll be sending out these shows by email. We'll just send you a link, and you can subscribe. You don't even have to go get it. We'll just send it to you. Lots of things going on. I want to thank you for listening today. This is Mercy Today, and we are telling the story of how compassion changes everything. I'm your host, Dr. Dan Critchett, saying goodbye for now, and until next time, may God help you be a part of what He's doing in our world today. So join us at the table again. Find out where in the world we'll be going next. Find all of our shows and a whole lot more on our website, MercyToday.Global. God bless you, and goodbye for now.